The searing heat of a plasma bolt shattered the display console inches from my head, showering us in sparks. I didn't flinch. I just tightened my grip on her waist, pulling her down behind the heavy durasteel barricade of the delegation platform. "Stay low," I shouted over the roar of returning fire. Ilara wasn't trembling. Her skin, usually a soft, rhythmic pulse of light, flared a blinding, violent violet, the luminous physiological response to adrenaline. She looked at me, her large, opalescent eyes wide, not with fear, but with a fierce, calculating resolve. We were trapped in the grand atrium of Apex Station, surrounded by security droids that had malfunctioned the moment the peace treaty was signed. Or rather, the moment the treaty was misread. "I told you the syntax was ambiguous," she yelled, her voice melodic even in chaos. I fired 3 suppressing shots blindly over the barricade. "I'm a cultural liaison, Ilara, not a soldier. I'm doing my best here." She grabbed my arm, her touch sending a jolt of electricity through my suit that had nothing to do with the laser fire. It was that undeniable magnetic pull, the same one that had started this whole mess. Protocol demanded silence, the heart demanded truth, and right now survival demanded we move. 24 hours earlier, the only thing threatening to kill me was my own anxiety. I stood in the airlock antechamber, smoothing the front of my dress uniform for the 100th time. This was it. The first contact summit between the United Earth Coalition and the Loomis Ascendancy. I was the lead expert in xenolinguistics, tasked with ensuring that the mining rights negotiation for Kayla my fee went smoothly. No pressure. Just the fate of 2 star systems resting on my ability to conjugate verbs in a language that relied on light refraction as much as sound. "Elias, stop sweating," I muttered to myself. "You have diplomatic immunity. They can't shoot you for a grammar mistake." The airlock hissed open, revealing the grand negotiation chamber. The Loomis delegation waited. They were breathtaking, tall, slender beings whose skin shifted colors like auroras trapped in glass. And at the center stood Princess Ilara. She was radiant, literally. Her bioluminescence cast a soft golden halo around her, pulsating with a warmth that seemed to defy the cold vacuum of space outside. I stepped forward to deliver the traditional greeting, a complex phrase meant to honor their ancestors. I opened my mouth, my brain screaming the correct phonemes, but my synapses misfired under the sheer impact of her presence. "You are absolutely stunning," I blurted out. The universal translator, clipped to my collar, didn't hesitate. It broadcast the statement in high-fidelity Loomis harmonics, echoing through the silent hall. The golden light around Ilara froze. The entire Loomis delegation stopped shimmering. My human colleagues looked ready to airlock themselves out of embarrassment. This was the HFY factor, human unpredictability at its finest. Then Ilara stepped forward. The gold shifted to a curious, swirling pink. "Stunning," she repeated, testing the word in her own language. "This is radical honesty." I swallowed hard, deciding that doubling down was the only way forward. Authenticity often builds stronger bridges than rigid formality. "Yes, it is. In my culture, hiding the truth of one's reaction to such radiance would be a deception." A ripple of light moved through her, a visual laugh. "Then we shall dispense with the deception, Liaison Thorn. I find your lack of filter refreshing." What followed wasn't a stiff diplomatic meeting. It was an accidental courtship disguised as a political summit. We spent the next 10 hours debating trade routes and mineral density, but the subtext was entirely different. Every time her hands brushed over a holomap, I felt that electric shock. Every time she flashed a specific shade of blue, I knew she was amused. We were building an interstellar romance on the foundation of a blooper reel. But the universe has a way of balancing luck with catastrophe. As we reconvened for the final signing, the central computer, an archaic system not updated for the nuances of Loomis syntax, processed the final clause. I had inputted the text regarding mutual exploration of the core. The screen flashed red. The automated defense grid for the station slammed in the lockdown. "Translation error detected," the mechanical voice boomed. "Hostile intent confirmed." Clause reads, "Mutual exploitation and destruction of the core." The security droids, programmed to prevent threats to the station's integrity, leveled their weapons at the Loomis delegation. "No," I shouted, diving toward Alara as the first droid charged its capacitors. "It's a syntax glitch, but machines don't care about intent." The first bolt flew, and the time for words ended. Now, the only language left was action. My lung capacity, evolved on a high-gravity death world, was the only reason I was still moving. To the Loomis, whose bones were akin to hollow crystal, the kinetic impact of the blaster fire vibrating through the floor was enough to shatter nerves. To me, a Terran, it was just a Tuesday in a bad neighborhood. I checked the charge on the stolen security rifle. 3 shots left. "We have to reach the main console," I yelled, my voice cutting through the shriek of ionization. "The logic core is looping. I need to manually override the translation matrix." Alara looked at the console, then at the 30 meters of open killing ground between us and salvation. Her bioluminescence dimmed to a terrified gray. "It is impossible," she whispered. "The probability of interception is—" "Never tell a human the odds," I interrupted, gripping her shoulder. "Listen to me. My species didn't survive ice ages and apex predators by playing it safe. We survived by being too stubborn to die. I'm going to draw their fire. You run for the console." She stared at me, her eyes widening. "You are a Class 4 Deathworlder. You are dense, but you are not invincible, Elias." I grinned, the Terran spirit flaring up in the face of certain doom. "I'm sturdy enough. When I move, you move." I didn't wait for an argument. I vaulted over the durasteel barrier, roaring a challenge that required no translation. The security droids, programmed to target the most aggressive threat, swiveled their optical sensors toward me instantly. I became the target. I sprinted in a jagged, chaotic line, sliding under plasma bolts that scorched the air inches from my skin. The heat was blistering, the noise deafening, but I felt a strange, hyper-focused clarity. This was human ingenuity turning our own reckless biology into a tactical asset. I took a glancing hit to my shoulder plating, the force spinning me around, but I used the momentum to fire my last 3 shots, blasting the sensors off the lead droid. Through the blur of motion, I saw a streak of violet light. Alara. She moved with a grace that made the battle look like a dance, slipping past the confused machines while they wasted their ammunition on the indestructible Space Orc, making a scene in the center of the room. She reached the console, her slender fingers flying across the holographic interface. "Elias," she screamed, "the syntax is locked. It requires a voice authorization." I scrambled behind a decorative pillar as the droids corrected their aim. "I can't reach you. You don't have to. Use the comms." I tapped my collar, panting heavily. The connection crackled. "Computer, override code. 01 Alpha. Recontextualize previous statement." The mechanical voice droned over the chaos. "Context required." I looked across the room. Alara was staring at me, bathed in the chaotic flashing of the alert lights. We were species apart, separated by biology and evolution. Yet in that moment, the connection was absolute. It wasn't about treaties or mining rights anymore. It was an unbreakable bond formed in the crucible of survival. I pressed the comms button, channeling every ounce of intent I had. "The phrase is not exploitation," I shouted, my voice cracking with exertion. "The phrase is union. Mutual, undeniable union." The central computer paused. The droids froze mid-stride, their glowing red eyes cycling to a neutral blue. "Processing." The machine hummed. "Intent analysis complete. Threat assessment negative. Syntax updated." The silence that followed was louder than the gunfire. The security grid deactivated. The blast doors hissed open, revealing the Galactic Council's security detail, who rushed in expecting a massacre. Instead, they found a battered human leaning against a pillar, bleeding slightly but grinning, and a radiant alien princess sprinting across the room to catch him before he slid to the floor. Alara's light enveloped me, a soothing, warm gold that chased away the pain in my shoulder. She checked my injury, her cool hands trembling against my heated skin. "You are insane," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. I wiggled a finger. "I am human. There's a fine line." The council members stood agape, watching as the heir to the Loomis ascendancy fussed over a sweating, disheveled Terran. The diplomatic fallout would be a nightmare to navigate, but as I looked into Alara's eyes, watching the colors shift from worry to a profound, affectionate deep blue, I knew we had won something far more valuable than mining rights. We had proven that while words can start wars, it takes a human heart and perhaps a little Deathworlder durability to finish them.